All right, well, good day, everyone, and welcome to one of PrimePay's monthly broker webinars, part of our broker webinar series. We want to welcome you here today, February 2016. The snow continues to fall here in the Northeast, but hey, it's February. It's what's to be expected. So good day. My name is Steve Jackson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Development and Channel Sales here at PrimePay, and I could not be more thrilled to have you join us here today for a title which many of you might say, whoa, hey, Steve, I've attended a lot of your webinars. Where are you going with this? What's going on? Hey, so hopefully I'm going to keep you at the edge of your seat here, at least in the onset, because today's title is about the broker's role it very much is about efficiency. And as many of you are aware, over the many years, maybe some of you have joined us for many of our webinars here over the many years, and you know that a lot of our webinars are tied towards technical guidance, sales strategies, but it has much to do about practical application. And so you'll see here as we go along here today, we're going to try to tie in a lot of practical application here to the title today. Before I get started, though, let me just let me touch on some of the logistics of the webinar here today. As you all are probably aware at this point, your phone lines are muted. We have quite a few of you on today, and so it's best to mute everyone's lines, but we do still want to hear from you. If you have a question, I would ask that you go to the GoToMeeting menu bar and go ahead and type in your question as I go along. If I am able to, I will try to answer your question during the webinar. But if not, we will certainly take that offline and be able to get back to you here once the webcast has been completed. Many of you also will ask the question in regard to, is this presentation being recorded? It absolutely is. And we actually make it public. So give us a couple days, but within a couple days, we will actually post the recording of this webinar onto our Broker Concierge YouTube channel. And we will provide a follow-up email to you, just notifying you that that has been made live. So you have the opportunity to view that then and review it at your leisure. So before we get started and really kind of getting into our main topic here today, it would be remiss for me to just not touch on a couple of the deadlines that are forthcoming here right now. As you are well aware, because most of you as brokers, as benefit consultants, have been helping and assisting your clients through this this newest challenge for employers, which is the ACA reporting obligations. And so I just want to touch on, just make sure that we're all clear, so just touch on this here real quick today. Again, the IRS did come out here at the start of the year and did provide an extension on the Forms 1095 B and C as to when they need to be distributed, and they also changed the date for the filing as well. And so as you look at the forms, Forms 1095B and C, the due date for distribution is March 31st, 2016. So that is the IRS deadline. For those of you who are utilizing PrimePay or your clients are utilizing PrimePay's ACA Compliance Navigator, which is our ACA reporting tool for our employers, the deadline to verify the data is actually coming up here on Wednesday, February 24th. And so all data will need to be verified, confirmed, uploaded into the system, and then our forms, we will be distributing those forms to employers at the beginning of March, so that they have adequate time to then distribute those to their employees. So just wanted to at least let you be aware of that. You know, keep in mind, there are still penalties for non-compliance. The IRS has really provided some flexibility and leniency here as long as employers focus on a good faith effort to comply with these obligations. So to continue to do your part in assisting and supporting your clients in this manner. You all are absolutely the most trusted advisor when it comes to ACA, and you are looked at the most. And so, I can't congratulate you enough for your help in helping your clients, comply with this new obligation. For filing, Forms 1094B and C, along with 1095B and C, the new dates are, if you do file manually, by May 31st, 2016, and then electronically by June 30th, 2016. Now, one note I do want to mention is that since the IRS has pushed this deadline, they did not change any of the requirements that an individual may have if they wish to file their individual tax returns early. And so employees will need, as you can see in my little note field here, some employees will need some form of documentation from the employer in order to file their individual returns. And so if the employer has not distributed Form 1095 yet, they're going to need to do something. I had just heard this morning that those individuals who are using TurboTax, TurboTax is absolutely requesting they can't move forward until they have some of those documents in place. So it is being asked. Accountants, CPAs have been asking this as well. So you might say, well, what is needed? What are some forms of sample documentation? And I just, put up something here. This is something that PrimePay is using actually for our clients who are, who will not be able to get the forms out until that March deadline. So what it can be is an employer letter, can be an employer letterhead, and it's simply including information stating that the employer's plan qualifies as minimum essential coverage, and whether the plan offering satisfies the individual mandate responsibility. And it's really just providing statements to that effect, okay? So that sample documentation can be very simple from the employer, but if there's two things that must be included in that letter, it should include those two bullet points there to the right. Now, if you utilize that letter in conjunction with the notice of exchange, boy, those two are powerful, all right? I mean, technically, the employer notice of exchange should be, employers should be providing that to new hires within 14 days of being hired, but it does provide the full information to each employee about the health coverage being offered. And so if you take the exchange notice, the employer notice of exchange, alongside that template, those two forms should be more than adequate in regard to providing the information needed for that employee. What the IRS has then said is that if the employee provides that information, they go ahead and file their taxes prior to receiving the official Form 1095, the IRS has said that there's not going to be any amendments needed, so that when that employee receives their official Form 1095, they're going to have to do an amendment, amended tax return. That's not going to be the case, okay? So those, I just wanted to touch briefly on the deadlines. Very, very important. To just share how important it is about your clients and making sure that your clients are fulfilling these obligations. I mean, we had just received actually an email this morning where an employer just figured out that they actually are a part of this reporting requirement and obligation. And so you can do a tremendous part in just talking to your clients, looking and assessing through their situation to determine, are you a small employer with self-funded coverage? Are you an employer that has 50 or more employees? One thing to keep in mind is that, as a benefits broker, you are always really hyper-focused on those employees who are benefit enrolled, benefit eligible. And you might easily have an employer with 45 employees, benefit enrolled employees, but you forgot about the other 20 that are part-time or variable hour employees that got them up over that 50 or more full-time employees and equivalent number, to become an applicable large employer. So please just connect with your clients. Don't wait anymore. I mean, there's not going to be any additional extensions granted with ACA reporting. The fines can be tremendous for non-compliance, literally get up to $3 million per employer. I mean, that's how stiff it can be. So ensure that your employers are providing that good faith effort, okay, to fulfill these requirements. All right, so as we get into our topic here today, the broker's role is about efficiency, okay? Whew. I think if you just take that title, you take that kind of sentence there, if you will, I think we all would generally agree, right, with the massive amounts of administration tasks, between just running your business, running your agency, managing your contacts, your clients, all the things that, if you just think about your agency, what you have to do, you have to think about creating more automation, greater amounts of efficiency, so that why? Well, maybe that would free you up, give you more time to service your clients, right? Provide valuable support and service, but it's also about giving you more time to be able to increase your revenue by seeking and going after new acquisition of new business, that may be out there for you. And as an agency, in a webinar here that we did in January of this year, we talked about 3 key trends, or 3 business challenges that employers are dealing with. And in that webinar here in January, I had showed this picture. So I just wanted to do a couple slides here real quick just to lay a little bit of a foundation. But as you've seen this quote before from the great one, Wayne Gretzky, a good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be. And so I challenged you in January to begin thinking about your clients' needs, their challenges. What are they challenged with, right? And I had also shown you a kind of a quote from EBN, just had come out, and the EBN article was targeted to an employer, to have a conversation kind of with an employer. And they say here, and I just took these quotes, task your broker with providing hands-on support in the following areas: compliance, communications, analytics, administration, and strategic solutions. Now, in this, the article didn't say task your broker with providing hands-on health and welfare benefit support in the following areas. They didn't specifically talk about, ancillary benefit plans in the following areas, that kind of support. This was, what they were talking about was a greater reach, a greater expansion of your efforts in your conversation to really deal not only with the health and welfare benefit piece that your employers are dealing with, but also just the business that they're involved with, the decisions that are being made that are well outside of the health and welfare benefit world. And how can you as an agency or a broker be able to participate in that, right? So I had focused on, excuse me, so I'd focused on 3 business issues, and the first one that I touched on was controlling cost, right? And so I challenged you there in January to, many of you, as you think about the health and welfare benefit renewal, the plan offerings, the renewal decision, the network coverage, provider network, all these different things that you are so good at. But that's only a piece of the controlling cost decision that an employer goes through. What about labor cost? What about capital equipment cost? Did you think about that employer wants to grow their business, build a brand new location in New Jersey, and but they're going to need some time to be able to do that. They're also going to need money. They got to save some money. And so decisions that they're making on the health and welfare benefit side of the aisle that you're controlling in that decision each and every year, that's only a So I challenge you to think outside of that, just your health and welfare benefit side, and think about how you can help and assist your clients in controlling cost outside as a regular or general business decision. We're going to talk, number 2 was in creating efficiencies, and we're going to cover that here today. So I'm going to talk about, really hone in on where you as an agency can assist your employers in this efficiency area. But the last item, and this is an easy one, right? I think everyone can just feel like, oh yeah, I'm right with you, Steve. Mitigating compliance risk. I mean, the third area, the third key business challenge that employers are dealing with is in mitigating compliance risk. And you guys see it first and foremost as part of the Affordable Care Act and just how everything or what everything that touches. But I also challenge you to think outside of just ACA, just outside of the benefit or HR type of situations and roles, and to think more about the risk that your employer clients are taking outside of that. And again, how can your agency actually adapt or expand to assist and help your clients in that area? So the first one that we had touched on, and again, just kind of, I'm going real quick here over a couple of the slides that we had discussed here in January, but as part of creating efficiencies, I had listed several items here where the employer's challenge has come from. As you guys know, creating efficiencies, it has much to do about your employee workflow process. It's about project planning. It's about business continuity, disaster recovery. Efficiencies don't only just touch the data management aspect, but just so much more. An employer is looking, depending on the type of business and industry that they're in, they're trying to drive greater efficiencies through their organization. But I had put up here some of the standard employer challenges and where they've come from, and certainly in your world, what you touch all the time is that annual health plan decision discussion. huge challenge from employers. And then if you just think about how ACA, the benefit eligibility and enrollment, the status changes, life events, the timing of all these tasks. I mean, employers are under the weight of obligations and requirements, and it's tough for them to create the efficiencies that they need in order to conduct a more profitable and more productive business. And the last item here in creating efficiencies, as you see there at the bottom, is just sparse or limited resources. Right? I mean, it's lean out there. Employers are not necessarily hiring a team, an HR department of 10, right? They might have an HR department of 1 or maybe none. Maybe the controller, the CEO, the president, the owner, a general manager. They're managing those functions. And so what you guys run across, and we at PrimePay all the time, is where the employers just have sparse and limited resources and able to capitalize greater on these efficiencies. I then brought 2 things to you here in January, and we're just going to cover these next 2 slides and move into some newer discussion. But I brought to you standard solutions that you can think about in creating efficiencies for your clients. And these standard solutions, if you think about it, many agencies, many brokers, they're facilitating these very solutions. They're making these recommendations every day, right? So I wanted to just share that, this is the, kind of becoming the me too. You as an agency, better streamlining the annual health plan decision process. Maybe you're creating some technology that's part of the online enrollment system. You might be providing full support for ACA, which is huge. Maybe it's becoming an HR consultant for your employer clients, but also just increasing your involvement maybe as a liaison between the carrier and the client, just really becoming more involved in a day-to-day with your client from an administration standpoint, right? You can kind of, if they have sparse or limited resources, you can become that extra HR person. You can become that extra compliance officer. You can, become that extra hand or labor. And many of you as an agency have kind of taken that on. And that's, I can't say that that's efficiency. That's additional help and support, but it's not really creating additional efficiencies for the employer. Then I challenge you to think a little more outside of the box and expanding, as you expand your discussion with your client beyond just the health and welfare benefit side. But one of the early things that we have begun to see in the market, and you see it in names like Zenefits, and you see it in names like Namely, certainly other PEOs that are out there, but you see what the demand of employers are today. They want technology. They want their benefits. They want someone who's knowledgeable on their benefits. You got to have it. But you have to have the technology that brings those different data points together. And so I challenged you there last month with partnering not only with an HR benefit system, but partnering with a system that has that integration with payroll, because payroll is touching so much. I'd mentioned before that as you look at the ACA reporting obligation, that roughly 75% of the data comes out of payroll. And so if you're trying to complete those forms 1095 with the data, coverage information, that's relatively easy. It's getting all the data, the hours worked, the pay frequencies, the measurement period analysis, that's all coming from that payroll side. So if you only have an HR system or just simply a benefit enrollment system, again, that's nice, but it's one piece, and it's not what employers want. Their business challenge is creating that efficiency kind of in all the areas that they're having an administrative task in. So then I'd also had mentioned your involvement or greater involvement with just payroll in getting more active in ad reports or term reports that you may have, considering private health exchanges as a just additional conduit. Why? Because those exchanges are connected with carriers and other ancillary insurance providers, which will tie in greater efficiencies. And I also then kind of wrapped up by saying, as part of strategic thinking, think about this: the more efficiencies you create with the employer and with yourself, it enables you more time to actually be able to go and sell, whether it's voluntary product, just magnifying a greater focus on voluntary benefits. But at the end of the day, by creating efficiencies, you can enhance the relationship by increasing more sales, okay? So as we think about the word efficiency and creating efficiency, I have basically taken here in the next coming slides, I have broken up an employer's kind of administration phases, okay, the things that they have to deal with either on an annual but certainly daily and monthly basis, and I've broken it into 4 phases, okay? And the first phase that I have listed here is the hire phase. And what I want you to do as I go through each of these phases, I want you to consider what your employer is doing. So I'm going to showcase kind of the key tasks and responsibilities for an employer in each of these phases. And then we're going to talk then just about the efficiency. Where can the employer gain some efficiency? Where if you were to connect the dots of all this data, how can you create a more efficient service and solution for your client? So as I go through this, I want you to think about you, not only what your employer is going through, but as an agency, how are you able to actually assist, support, and empower a client to have greater efficiency? And as an agency, what hopefully we'll show you here at the end is that you are sitting at such a wonderful kind of point in time and opportunity to be able to provide clients with these various types of efficiency, just where the data sits. So let's go through that. So the first phase is the hire phase. All right, and so I've broken up each phase here as kind of, well, all right, what's the efficiency challenge that these employers are dealing with? And I've got a few things here for each and every one. So the first one that I had come up with, if we just think about the hire phase, right, before someone gets hired, we have an applicant, we have a candidate. Now again, I want you to think about where your role can fit in, okay, to this. You may not necessarily be reviewing candidates for employers, you know, that type of a thing. Maybe not at all, right? But as an employer, they are. They have to be able to track it. So applicant tracking is a pretty big deal, is a pretty big first step when you think about the specific HR compliance issues related around applicant tracking. Employers, based on who they do not hire, you know, interview and do not hire, or interview and do hire, you better have a structure, a history in place to showcase kind of exactly what you had done, right? So applicant tracking, big piece to that. Employee screening services. This could be standard background checks. You know, they're doing federal background checks. They are, you know, criminal background checks. This might be drug testing that is done. But from an employer, as a new hire has now said, hey, I am willing to accept that position, employee screening services become a really big piece. An area then on the hire phase that is a really big deal, and I've seen brokers greatly assist clients in this area, but HR advice and consulting needs are huge in this phase, right? We hear a lot about employers that, you know, simply they do not have their policies and procedures in place in order to really manage the new hire process, you know, like they should. The employee handbook, we've talked for I don't know how many years that it's a strong requirement, a strong recommendation for employers to have an employee handbook just in place for their new hires. Then you have the employee onboarding phase of this, where you know, we just don't have a new hire and maybe they need to go through, you know, you need to prove that you went through your employee handbook. You now need to take this sexual harassment you know, training you know, before you get started. But you also have just onboarding into the benefits based on the eligibility and waiting periods. New hires certainly are going to need to get onboarded not only into the payroll system, not only into an HR system, but they're going to need to enroll in those benefits. And so I've just taken, as we think about the hire phase, here's 5 areas that are specifically unique to employers, what they have to do day in and day out, okay, for their new hires, okay? So let's now just take a look. What does efficiency look like in the hire phase? Originally, when I had pictured this webinar to some degree, I was going to do this follow the bouncing ball, you know, and following it through a kind of following data management and you know, showcasing more about the efficiency. So I didn't do that. I'm not that technically proficient on the bouncing ball thing. But what does efficiency look like in the hire phase? And let's try to connect some of these specific dots, okay? So applicant tracking. So applicant tracking, if done like really well, that would be connected to the HR management system, that HRMS system, right? So that's an HR. It's got a technology platform that's specific to some HR functionality. But then it's also potentially going to have a benefit enrollment or a benefit administration, you know, part of that as well. So when I say HRMS system, I'm talking about more of an HR and benefit administration or enrollment tool that an employer would use, right? Because the onboarding, and we'll share that here in just a little bit, applicant tracking would need to flow into the HRMS system so that, right, one of the next steps would be to trigger the employee onboarding experience. You know, employee, you need to go through the handbook, you need to facilitate the sexual harassment training or OSHA training or this certification, whatever it may be, and flow through that process, and then enroll in benefits, you know, as needed. But that HRMS system then, if you think about it, we have an applicant that now becomes a new hire. That HRMS system then needs to be connected to payroll, which then needs to also be connected to, you see there, T+L management. That's time and labor management solution. So these are time clocks, time and attendance systems that enable a new hire to be able to punch in, punch out, you know, get their hours in from week to week, from pay period to pay period. And as we look at the data that that is specifically generated from this applicant tracking mechanism, you know, generally what has to get to payroll is going to be your standard demographic, you know, employee information, kind of static information. That's the important thing that you get out of applicant tracking. As you think about employee screening services, I put a question mark because generally speaking, a background check, although the results of the drug test or the results of the investigation, the background check, that report can be saved, it might be housed within a HR management system or maybe a payroll system to some degree. It's generally not connected to that HRMS system, okay? And so this is generally an outsourced solution that employers will utilize, and it's not generally connected to anything. So there's not a great amount of efficiency that you would get out of just employee screening services. The HR advisory and consulting needs, this is normally a face-to-face. It's a website where you can get information, and although links and information could have a single sign-on to an HR management system, generally this is an outsourced you know, opportunity. It's where you could really physically get involved as far as advice and then consultant type of advice. So this is generally non-integrated. This is just put under the confines of support and the needs of that employer and assisting them through that new hire phase. The employee handbook is generally e-delivered through the HRMS system or certainly handed out as part of the new hire paperwork that is received. And then a big one here, and you see a big touch point, is this employee onboarding. If I were to state a major cause or challenge of just data management and helping an employer getting through the various tasks and requirements of bringing that new hire on and getting them to get into payroll, getting them into the benefits, it is this piece. So if you can follow my little arrows there, my connections, employee onboarding is directly tied within that HRMS system. Then as that onboarding for benefits, as those deductions are created within those elections that have been made within that HRMS system, that then is connected to carriers plus payroll. So it's kind of going to both, right? The benefit information to carriers, the data, elections, deductions, that information, salary, that information going into payroll, which then is tied to employee scheduling and time and labor management. So the employee onboarding, if you think about the different touches and creating efficiency, if you didn't have that HRMS system and the ability to talk to carriers and payroll, that's missing a huge component for employers. So that efficiency is really critical. And then if the employee scheduling and the time and labor management systems are also not integrated, you're talking about a completely separate process that employers will need to go through. So the data that's found within this specific structure, this kind of efficiency track, is very heavy on the benefits. It's general employee data for just payroll, deduction information and so forth. But then you also run across a very strong component for an employer, which is labor cost. Labor cost details, that's getting into the time and labor management aspect, where you're tracking the hours worked for each individual that's working for that employer. So the hire phase here, a new hire, just thinking about a new hire, there's a tremendous amount of activity that that employer will need to do, and you have an opportunity to really create greater efficiencies through that. The second phase is the manage phase, and this really is getting into the daily types of benefit, HR, payroll administration processes for that employer. And so again, let's look at the efficiency challenge for an employer under this manage phase. The first here is kind of a given, payroll administration. And many of you might say, Steve, you know, we're a benefits broker, we're an agency, we do a lot of things, we're not necessarily getting involved on that payroll administration side. Well, I'll talk about here in the next slide here let's take a little deeper view here in payroll administration. As much as PrimePay makes it easy for employers to process their payroll, you know, each and every pay period, it is a weekly, daily type of an event. Things are always happening between employees being added, termed, a new bonus check needs to be set up here this week, a new tax needs to be entered in for this particular employee. So payroll administration is just this ongoing major task for employers. The next is employee scheduling. I don't know what types of industry your clients are involved in. We have many clients in the restaurant business, catering business, and so forth, and when you or retail business. And employee scheduling for hourly employees is a tremendous effort, right? We all picture the Excel spreadsheet of the shifts, you know, on the cork board in the back of the restaurant, you know, as shifts are being changed and monitored. But employee scheduling is critical, right, for ACA purposes, for just business, labor cost types of purposes. So there needs to be some key efficiencies here through that. The management of non-exempt hourly employee base. ACA has made it pretty critical for employers to really manage their kind of their non-exempt workforce, whether they're variable hour employees or part-time employees, to ensure of that critical 30 or more hours per pay period, or per week rather, that those employees may or may not be working. Pre-tax benefit account maintenance. Status changes are occurring on a regular basis. Employees are making elections into their transit and commuter accounts, you know, maybe monthly, or there's other just all these benefit accounts that employers do have, and just the upkeep of that information. And then the last two items are just the standard things that an employer is dealing with. I know you know that they're dealing with it, but they are just trying to manage it on a daily basis, and that's employee life events, status changes that occur just throughout you know, the life cycle of any employee with an employer, and then paid time off. Simple paid time off request, and how is that managed through the process. So again, let's look at these different parts of the phase, and what does efficiency look like in this manage phase. So I'd mentioned about payroll administration, and you have the data management of just weekly adjustments that occur. Now, one of the biggest areas for payroll administration is the constant change from paid time off request to just the hours worked, right? The shifts and schedules that employees would work, being able to manage that data in an efficient manner so that then it's populated directly into payroll. So as you see here, just in kind of my line, payroll administration must be connected to time and labor management and employee scheduling, those features. That would create the maximum amount of efficiency for employers in being able to manage that data as far as all of those weekly adjustments. Employee scheduling is becoming one of the biggest areas that we hear from our employers, just managing shifts and schedules. You know, it has turned, if an employer is utilizing a paper process or a filing cabinet process, they really need to have a unique tool and resource in order to get the employee scheduling whatever system that's being used into the time and labor management. So when scheduling is complete for a particular employee and they're going to work a specific shift, then that should push the data directly into the time and labor, time and attendance system, so that now that employee can clock in, clock out, the hours worked is being accumulated, which then can be pushed directly into payroll for that week's particular pay period. But this is one of the more important areas in managing the ACA. So your variable hour employees through their various measurement periods, that's the crux right there. I mean, that's what's triggering it all. And then certainly helping to manage the labor cost issue that a lot of employers are managing. Because if they're doing it on a paper process, they're probably missing some things. But by utilizing a system, a tool, that's going to actually help them to reduce labor costs overall. So I talked actually about this, just the management of non-exempt hourly employee base. That is going to be found in the heart of your time and labor management system, because that is going to accurately determine what hours are worked, the rate of pay that is being paid to those specific individuals. And so having time and labor management, more efficiently pushing that data into payroll, you're going to better control the hours worked and certainly enable greater integration down the road of information for the ACA reporting obligations. Pre-tax benefit account maintenance can be more efficiently controlled through a mechanism that I show here. Having an HR management system where employees go in, they make their elections for their flexible spending plan, the HRAs, the health savings accounts, the transit and commuter accounts, then having that sending elections and deduction information over to that TPA or to that vendor that is managing those specific accounts on behalf of the employer. And then once those elections are made, that's being pushed directly into payroll. That is the most efficient way to manage that pre-tax benefit account process. And then the last two items, employee life events and PTO requests, can be found by BEST. The life events can be found by BEST accumulating that data within an HRMS system, where it's pushed then directly into payroll. Now, life events can also affect carrier, right? Carrier eligibility, age 26 dependents to we've got a marriage, we need to add a spouse, to the plan. So that HRMS that's attached to payroll and carriers, very, very important. And then where you find most PTO request is not necessarily in payroll, but it's within your, it could be within your HR management system, but also going to be very closely tied to the time and labor management tool. The third phase, as we think about efficiency and you think about what your clients are actually going through on a monthly basis, is this retain phase. Now, this is where we get into some of the critical challenges that you deal with on a daily, monthly basis with your clients, right? We've got the medical benefit coverage, the ancillary benefit coverage. I mean, these things, an employer dealing with the benefits certainly every year, but just daily, is a massive undertaking if you have not created efficiencies. And so these two, medical and ancillary, we'll go into here in just a bit. Retirement plans. Most employers in retaining their employees, they want to maximize their benefit offerings. Some of you and your agencies may have moved in this direction. You may be providing some retirement plan offerings. Certainly to your clients. It's a good thing. Most employers want to or wish to provide some retirement plan focus, but there's an efficiency challenge for employers in managing and maintaining that particular benefit. And then as you think about compliance, you think about kind of three areas here that are requirements for employers. So an employer, in order to retain that client, they may be providing benefits or not providing benefits, so they're going to have to manage and monitor eligibility of those employees. They're going to need to do that due to ACA purposes. they're going to need to ensure that their health and welfare benefit plans, along with their retirement plans, are fully covered and protected under the ERISA notices and disclosures and SPDs. And then lastly, which is a vast requirement for most employers, is going to be the non-discrimination testing, not just for the medical plan, but maybe for your Section 125 plan or for a separate Section 105 self-funded plan that employer may have. And those three things here are not just, hey, sure would be nice to do. No. You're required to manage the compliance in this area. So employers are just going to, well, I don't know if I know everything that surrounds ACA and ERISA for my health and welfare plans. What do you mean? What's needed here? What am I required to do? How often am I supposed to do this testing that you talk about, right? So the employer's challenge is not also just creating more efficiency around these areas, but it's just knowing what specific requirements that they need to actually perform on a daily basis. So as, again, we think about retain, what does efficiency look like in the retain phase? Now, as you think about the medical benefits coverage, as many of you know, utilizing an HR management system, that tool, is going to be the foundation for really managing not only the open enrollment for the employees, new hires, well, and current employees during the open enrollment period, but also just all ongoing new hire elections that would be made or status changes that would be made. So an HR management system, that is the crux. And what I want you to think about is, okay, most of you that might be on this call here might say, well, Steve, you know, our agency recommends this specific, it's just a benefit enrollment tool, that's it. Okay, which is nice, right? I mean, that helps an employer a lot, getting that employee through the elections and, you know, choosing or waiving coverage, and then that information can be populated on a nice report or information sent over to the carrier to greatly reduce just that benefit enrollment process. But that's only one piece of the equation. And if that system that you're providing to employers is not connected also to the benefit administration, and then also connected with as an ongoing basis with carriers and payroll, you're really missing that key efficiency challenge from the employer. So medical benefit coverage efficiency can be achieved through having a full HR and benefit enrollment and administration system that's then also connected directly with carriers and payroll. Okay, those two items specifically, because those are touching not only that benefit eligibility, but also those elections and deductions. One of the most fruitful, profitable, but also efficient ways to help an employer through the ancillary benefit coverage is absolutely kind of through the same process of utilizing an HR management system. I've never seen it really outside of an HR management system where an employee gets so much more visibility out of those voluntary and ancillary benefits by visualizing them on an HR management system, and that will only enable you to sell more of those specific types of coverage. Retirement plans is a little trickier one as we think about efficiency. These are generally a separate election. They're, you know, generally it's kind of a payroll-driven activity where deductions are sent to the, you know, the broker-dealer or to the, you know, the mutual fund administrator and so forth. And so a lot of times with retirement plans, it's a separate form, it's a separate election, and sometimes you do see that as part of an HR management system, but most of the time, employees are making elections outside of that. And so we really see an inefficient process, to be honest, with making elections, making changes for retirement plans. It's kind of they've kind of been running their own structure and process over all these years, and it has kind of remained separate from what I would call more of a standard HR management system. Full compliance with the ACA, ERISA, and non-discrimination. ACA is huge. That's the biggest area that you can, or one of the largest areas that you can create massive efficiencies with your clients. Now more than ever, employers are trying to figure out, how can I get my coverage data onto these Forms 1095, and how can I get my payroll data into these Forms 1095, and what other kind of data do I need to get? And if you had a tool, so as I showed there, an HR management system, which is going to include employee data, right? It's going to have coverage information in there, might have some wage information. But then if that information is pushed to payroll, all right, and then we include in our time and labor management system, we have our hours worked or rate of pay. We've got a lot of information tied together with that, with those two. And then you push both of those directly into an ACA reporting tool. Other than some one-off changes, additions into the information, but right there, in one fell swoop, you've created a very, very efficient tool for employers, all right, in regard to complying with ACA and certainly the reporting obligation. ERISA, ERISA is going to have very little to no types of integration, as that's more of a compliance or wrap document or documentation. Policies and procedures could be posted within an HR management system, but it's not necessarily integrated in that fashion. Non-discrimination testing is a different one, a different animal as well, although you can get some forms of integration between an HRMS system and payroll. There is actually very little integration in getting the final testing to be complete. There's usually more information that's needed that's specific to that testing, but an HRMS and payroll kind of collaboration will get you very far down the road. So retain is huge, right? This last one is a very important one for employers, one they have to watch very closely as they think about the final stages of an employee life cycle, but this is the transition phase, okay? And when we think about the efficiency challenge for the transition phase, it's really focused on, we have the transition through just insurance plan renewals. You guys play such a huge role, certainly in that insurance plan renewal phase. Certainly this is kind of that renewal or transition that employers will have each year, certainly not only through open enrollment periods, but throughout the year. But we also have COBRA, right? COBRA, key requirement for employers. And then lastly, then just unemployment cost management that an employer may want to consider to help alleviate some claims issues in regard to folks that are leaving their company. So as we look at transition, what does efficiency look like in the transition phase? What is it looking like here right now, at least within that? As we think about the insurance plan renewals, this is following, as we think about efficiency, most employers are having the conversation and decision, with you. And then you're getting the paper applications and the employee is filling out that information, and then they're getting that back to you. You're submitting that to the carrier, right? I mean, you just flow through the process of what normally gets done. But that's very burdensome, for employers. The disruptors in the market, as I had mentioned before, with the names like Zenefits and Namely, they're selling the technology. In fact, they call themselves technology companies, and employers are demanding that they have some of that technology that is going to help and assist them through this insurance plan renewal process, an open enrollment period process. So an HRMS system, and again, this doesn't have to be a huge, HRIS system. It's proprietary. It's worth millions of dollars. It's customized specifically for that employer, although it's, to some degree it should be. But I'm just talking about more of a standard HR management system, one that can collect a tremendous amount of data, be able to categorize that data and report that data, but also report it electronically to carriers, to other vendors, to payroll, and so forth, which greatly assist in the redundancy and the amount of errors that employers may have. There is no size, as well. When you think about small group age-based plans, it also very much applies. These systems can greatly accommodate those age-based plans. There is more work with age-based plans, but providing a rate table and information that can be easily populated directly into those systems. But as you can see here, the HRMS system connected to the carrier, which is then connected also to payroll and TPA. Very, very important. COBRA. COBRA is important. We run across many employers that have lost the efficiency battle, and they are just they're throwing darts as to the timing of when a termination had occurred, and if the COBRA qualifying election letters and notices have been sent out, or if the carriers were even notified. So efficiency for COBRA is first starting in the HRMS system, where a trigger is made, a termination of employee has been made, and that's then going to notify COBRA, the COBRA administration vehicle, whomever might be utilizing that. But it's also connecting to payroll, right? We just terminated an employee. I want to stop paying this individual if today is their last day. So then that also, if once a COBRA election has been made, then that information needs to flow back to the HRMS system, so that then that can send the information directly to the carrier. So that's why you see that flow there. And HRMS systems connecting with COBRA and payroll, and then as COBRA notifies the HR system again in regard to the election, then that system can then notify the carriers. Just a very, very efficient process that can be utilized, a very integrated process. The unemployment cost management, there really is not much integration that we have seen here at PrimePay or otherwise. It's much more of a payroll-driven activity, and unemployment cost management controls can be in place to certainly lower unemployment cost. It's claims management, but there's very little to no integration that is utilized with that. So what I'd like to do is this. So as you looked at those 4 phases, I now want to conduct a quick SWOT analysis of your agency. So as we look at creating efficiencies, and if we're saying this is your role, you can be central, your agency can be central in that, I thought, you know what, why don't we go through a SWOT analysis? And I don't know if you guys do this on a regular basis for your opportunities, for your agency as a whole, but I thought this would be very good. So SWOT stands for your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But what we're going to do here is we're going to do this SWOT analysis. It's going to be specific to your agency, but it's going to be focused on efficiency. Where are your strengths? Where could be potential weaknesses that exist? What are some of the opportunities that exist if you create more efficiencies for your clients? And then lastly, what are the threats? What if you decide, Steve, nice, maybe, I'm not doing it. I'm not going there. I'm not going to provide more of this stuff or help or support or value add for my clients. Okay, well, what kind of threats exist out there, potentially here for you? So let's first look at the positives of the strengths. And you'll see there to the left, we've got internal factors, okay? So just you as an agency, kind of the internal factors that apply, your strengths, weaknesses. And then we will touch on the external factors that will be affecting your agency, okay? So the positives, certainly the strengths. As I look at our partners, our Broker Concierge partners, your strengths are many, but certainly anything connected to benefits is huge for you, right? We can't do what you do. You guys do a wonderful job on connecting to benefits. So as you think about efficiency, I showed you kind of through those 4 phases where, boy, HR and benefits touches so much. I mean, the data in benefits, not all, but it's got to get to payroll. It's got to get into time and labor management systems. It guides so many things. So if you think about how your agency can create more efficiency around benefits, which is your passion and expertise, I'm going to tell you what, you're going to alleviate many of the issues that employers have in the efficiency challenge area. HR consulting advice. I mean, you guys, do an excellent job in either providing the advice or certainly providing the conduit, so that your clients do receive the answers to those questions, policies and procedures and so forth. Employee onboarding. You guys sit on a very wonderful opportunity to get new hire reports from payroll. You have access as a broker to get new hire reports. Why do you want new hire reports? Well, don't you want to know who those new hires are within that company so that you can actually reach out as the benefits broker, provide education, information on enrolling in the benefits? Maybe it's the medical, maybe it's ancillary benefits. You want to get to them right away. Well, where do those new hires sit first? In payroll. So accumulate the new hire reports directly from payroll. And then the last few here, instead of going into every one, just the insurance plan renewals, the termination term reports directly from payroll. You're going to want to know about those employees who are leaving that employer, so that you can facilitate benefit eligibility with the carriers and so forth. And then I also have the last item here that I think you all play a very strong, it's a huge strength for you as we think about efficiency, is compliance. I had mentioned before, you are the trusted advisor for ACA, but you're the trusted advisor for benefits and HR and many other things. And compliance is a real strength. You can create a lot of efficiencies thinking about where your strength is in compliance. Weaknesses, as you think about efficiencies, you might also be thinking about the financial barriers that exist with trying to provide some of these efficiency types of systems or platforms or opportunities to your employers. Do you buy? Do you build? Do you partner, right? Those are the decisions that you have to make. So, the financial barrier to just buy or build an HRMS system could be quite costly, right? Your E&O coverage might go up quite a bit if you're providing HR consulting or compliance services, or you're hiring an ERISA attorney, to manage those services for your agency. So your E&O, I mean, just the financial barriers, the risk of liability could maybe far exceed some of your things, right? That could be certainly a weakness. You might also say as an agency, Steve, I mean, I hear you. Data management and payroll is critical, but I just don't know a lot about it. My confidence level is low. But if you can drive your spirit and energy around data management and payroll, since payroll and that data touches so many things, you as an agency are going to create actually a greater viability, stickiness with that client for the efficiencies that you could create. Also, as an agency, think of this. If you are centrally focused on just only the health and welfare decision, the plan offering for your clients, your agency then is void of so many other multiple solutions. And as you look at the disruptors out there in the marketplace, they're providing multiple solutions to their clients. Let's look at some of the external factors. What are the results if by creating more efficiencies or more efficient ways to manage these four phases for your clients? The opportunities that exist are many. By offering an HR management system, a time and labor management, payroll, compliance, more efficient compliance solutions, that will and can enable you to go after or to attract larger employer opportunities. They're going to be presented to you. Why? Because you have greater comprehensive solutions. The Zenefits model, when it first came out, was really focused on, group sizes of 10 and fewer, 20 and fewer. Well, today they're going 1,000 plus. Why? Because they've said, you know what, we're a technology company and we're going to go after this business, and employers are demanding it. So it would enable you to get larger employer opportunities. Creating efficiencies will also absolutely take your current client opportunities. You're going to create more stickiness with that client. They will be more dependent on you. And it will also create multiple sales opportunities within that organization. And then the last two things is Greater visibility. One of the greatest one of the challenges that brokers have that you all have told me is that I don't have access, I don't have transparency, I can't see that information. Well, by creating more efficiencies and tools and systems that employers can use, you will have greater access and visibility with those systems. And clearly, a great external factor here, an opportunity, is staying relevant. Creating more efficiencies shows the client that you know the specific challenges and business issues that they are facing and can help them. The threats are probably numerous, but you know, by not going down the road of efficiency with your clients, you have others that are certainly willing to step in and fulfill that specific task. National payroll providers are very willing today to offer that full comprehensive suite of solutions to their clients. Online brokerage firms, I've mentioned them already. You have PEOs that, you know, preferred employer organizations that are providing a full suite of payroll, benefits, workers' compensation, retirement plans, everything, you know, ultimately to their clients. There could be separate third-party vendors and systems that just simply take a specific task or a multitude of tasks and making it more efficient and effective. Well, you know, you don't want, you know, them to be coming in. You know, we need that to come from you. Why? Because you are really that trusted advisor for that client. You know, and also the threat too is you not getting access to that information. So an employer not providing access or transparency to you, they're giving that access and transparency to someone else if they're moving down that path. And so hopefully that the SWOT analysis on efficiency is helpful. It kind of brings to light where you sit. You sit in the power seat. You sit in you sit with an opportunity to greatly enhance and make more efficient your client's administration. So your agency has everything to do about creating efficiency with your clients. So expand your conversation beyond benefits, and what I would want you to do is go into your clients and start asking how do you do this? How do you do this? How would you like to do this? You know, ask those open-ended questions to your clients to determine what exactly are your needs through payroll right now. What are your needs from just managing the ongoing benefit administration, or maybe this specific compliance task? How do you maintain shifts and scheduling for your employees? Those are big ones to have. So get to know the payroll provider of your clients. You might have more accessibility than you think by just kind of engaging your client about that discussion. I had mentioned before, you know, those new hire reports or the term reports, really something that you can get your hands on. You want to think about, if you're going to create more efficiency, if employers are demanding a more efficient way of managing this data and this information for them on an ongoing basis, because why? Because they want to do what they do best. They want to grow their business, they want to increase their revenue, they want to reduce costs, you know, they just want to manage their company. So what should you do? Should you build, buy, partner with an HRMS kind of system, provider, partner? That's certainly something you need to think about, but that will create an enormous stickiness with your clients. Become the trusted advisor for ACA. Don't shy away from that one iota. If you do create more efficiency for your clients, it will create more efficiency and time for you, which means that you can spend more time either going after new clients or certainly creating more sales within your current client environment, whether it's voluntary, ancillary, to shoot, any other things that your agency might have your specific niche. So efficiency, really big deal. Before we go here today, I do want to mention our Broker Concierge exclusive promo through May 1st. If you as a Broker Concierge partner refer a client to PrimePay and that client does come on board with PrimePay, we will be giving the client automatically a $50 gift card, and you, the broker, in conjunction or in collaboration with our regular commissions that we would pay you, we're also going to give you a $100 gift card as well. So we have a specific promo. It's called our +1 referral program, and this is exclusive to our Broker Concierge partners. So if you are not a Broker Concierge partner, we'd love to have you learn more about our program. And what I would ask is that you go to the link here below, primepay.com/Broker Concierge, to learn more about our program and find out just a little more ways in how PrimePay is assisting brokers through this efficiency process. Throughout this year, we are going to continue to focus and hone in on these 3 key business challenges and trends from employers, because we think that as an agency, you have a real opportunity to take advantage of those specific issues and challenges and really become the hero. And so we're going to focus on sales strategies, technical guidance. We're going to, at the end of the day, try to bring this into practical application. But I hope that you take today some of the information that could be very helpful to you as you think about how you want to move your agency forward. Remember, you are holding the puck today, but you actually need to be moving to where the puck is going to be in the future, right? So that's where we want to take you. We are thrilled to death that you've chosen to partner with PrimePay. And again, for those of you who are joining this webinar for the first time, please seek out our Broker Concierge team at the links or the numbers below, and we would be happy to talk with you further in regard to how we can help and assist you through this efficiency challenge. So with that, this will conclude our webinar here today. Thank you for joining us, and we will begin, we will have our next webinar here at the beginning of March, and we will be sending out that topic here very, very soon. So with that, that will conclude our webinar. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you in the very near future. Thanks.